There are many challenges in our school which are located in urban areas and the student population is diverse. This position can be discussed based on the following considerations. This is so because there is a tendency for the students to perform differently depending on their ability to pay for their tuition fees and other charges. As much as we have tried to expand the offering of education, achievement still follows a similar pattern. This is further compounded by the fact that many of the programs are underfunded and often lack adequate resources to adequately support the needs of the clients. This is not exclusive to the schools and can be attributed to other national trends in the United States. Research has noted that disparities in learning outcomes among children in the low and high SES learning environments are widening, which has necessitated more targeted approaches. This has led to the introduction of such activities such as after-school tuition and mentorship at our school. However, these efforts are limited by lack of funding, a factor which is not new in literature regarding education inequity. These disparities are also a subject to the new national policy known as Every Student Succeeds Act (ESSA) that mandates all schools to be accountable for every student subgroup. The developmental area specified for this activity deals with improvement of tutoring initial training teachers on class and teaching manners. The appropriate facet that I shall as a mentor focus is the effective approach to cheering the teachers by personalizing how best to support them and enhancing the formats of our professional development meetings. This focus is particularly relevant given the current responsibilities of the role, which include instructional leadership management responsibilities and presenting faculty development sessions geared towards enhancing instructional practices in teaching and promoting a positive work culture. They should involve implementing professional development workshops that enhance the knowledge level of teachers and implement the introduction of new practices in the teaching methodologies. For example, the teaching about differentiation in the recent lesson equipped teachers with numerous ideas on how to address students' needs.
One of the social issues faced by the state of Alaska is the lack of mental and emotional well-being of the Native Alaskans. It is very unfortunate that many of the Native Americans are living under poor conditions throughout the country. In the cases of Native Alaskans, even virtually entire villages are suffering from a lack of mental and emotional well-being, which includes continuing poor physical and mental health. Alcohol abuse, domestic violence, homicides, and suicides are frequent among them, which of course, lead to families falling apart. It is tragic to see that many children are abused and not educated properly. As a matter of fact, the children themselves are abusing alcohol and other chemicals, and the rate is increasing over the time. Since parents are suffering from mental illnesses and alcohol abuse, they can't take care of their children, so many children are being taken care of by others or simply neglected. Therefore, we can conclude that Alaskan natives are losing hold of their communities, cultural identities, and most importantly, their childhoods. So you can see how serious the issue is. Plus, rather than making a living for themselves, they are depending on public services and subsidies. They have lost control of and responsibility for their economy and governing institutions. Notwithstanding the gains made by Finland, it should also be acknowledged that there are important differences between the UK and Finland's housing, population and public services landscape. In relation to the efforts of the Finnish government in increasing the availability, affordability and adequacy of Finland's social housing stock, social housing accounts for a significant proportion of Finland's total housing stock. This differs considerably from the housing landscape of the UK. After the Second World War, large-scale public investment massively increased the social housing sector, but the 1980s saw a large percentage of social housing being sold off, to raise government funds in times of austerity. The right to buy scheme allowed social housing tenants to purchase their home at a heavily discounted price. And the profits raised by this scheme were not used in the replacement of the housing that was sold since then. Levels of the construction of social housing have decreased due to grants from the central government falling from 39% to 14%. Such differences between the UK's and Finland's social housing sector offers a challenge towards the implementation of the FHS into UK housing policy, as a much higher amount of social housing is needed to support people in the UK experiencing homelessness or housing precarity. The secondary qualitative research on how teachers as stakeholders approach mindfulness practice in education has provided valuable information regarding the complexity of the roles mindfulness interventions are playing in addressing student needs as well as supporting teacher well-being needs. In this context, the research demonstrates that teachers overall have positive perceptions of mindfulness interventions, primarily in reducing and preventing negative emotional states and promoting positive affective states among students within classroom settings. Idealistically, teachers see reception in students who practice mindfulness as a way that helps them reduce stress and control their outbursts in class. This emotional stability is usually attributed as the cause of better performance, as students who are calm are likely to engage themselves in study properly. However, the findings of the study support the notion that teachers view mindfulness as a useful teaching strategy for cultivating social competencies explicitly in young learners. In this way, mindfulness helps students to acquire valuable skills, including empathy, self-control, and resilience, that may prevent classroom disruptions and promote positive student behaviors while at the same time helping them cope with school and later life. To the elders, especially to those learners in competitive education systems, mindfulness is seen as a good technique of managing stress and focusing on lessons that are crucial for success.
Teachers from cultures in which the practice of mindfulness was not valued would need to be sold the benefits of practicing it more convincingly, as it shapes their ability to give them fully to the practice. Additionally, the teacher's view is based on the student's response to the mindfulness exercises. It is these teachers that have reported the positive change in the student's behavior, or their ability to self-regulate their emotions, or their academic performance, as a consequence of espousing mindfulness. These results support their postulations and suggest additional application of various forms of mindfulness treatments. One example of this would be that, when a teacher sees students be more calm and attending in class after the practices, the teacher probably will have a positive view on the practices. This reinforces the loop because if teachers believe that mindfulness is useful, watching it work well fills their minds with positive experiences.